page 8 of your workbook, or if you're working out of the hardcover book, it's page 11. So I did take this out of the hardcover book because it's colorful versus your journal book is black and white. So it says the 6 triangles form a rectangle. Find the angle measures of each triangle without a protractor. Then you can use a protractor to check the reasonableness of your answers. So we're going to go ahead and just work off of the first part because that's what we're practicing today, is not using that protractor. So when I look at all of these triangles, it looks very confusing, okay? So I'm going to try and pinpoint one of them that I think might be the easiest one for us to start off with, and that's going to be this middle triangle right here, this one right here, okay? So when you look at that, now it's kind of like what we did in our activity earlier. And the one thing I do need to make sure that you understand is, here I've got n's. If n were to occur anywhere else, like it does right here on this yellow one, then it's going to be equal to whatever n is in this purple. Okay, it doesn't have to be part of that triangle. If we find out that n is a certain degree, the answer is going to be the same on this end here too. Okay, so you might want to kind of jot those in as you figure them out, kind of scroll through. It's like a puzzle. Okay, so let's go ahead and think about this triangle. When we look at it, let's break it down to what we did on the previous slide. We have how many n's here? Well, there's only one n there, one n there, one n there. There's no number in front, so it means they all have a 1 in front of them. So I just found out that this is actually 3 n's equal 180 degrees, right? Okay, we need to get n by itself. This one's pretty easy to start with. That's the nice thing. So if I want to get n all by itself, right now it's multiplying. We have to divide by 3. Okay, there's not any adding or subtracting in there, so it's a one-step equation. We got to go straight to that, getting rid of the 3 next to that n. So divide by 3. So 180 divided by 3 gives me 60. So I just found out that each of these is worth 60. Okay, now I do see another n sitting on this yellow triangle right here, so this one's also 60. Okay, so now you're going to go ahead and have to kind of work from there and see if there's another spot that we could go through and work. Let's see what I had for my number 2. Let me get rid of this triangle really quick. I'm seeing another spot that we can go. I just don't know if that's what I put for my number 2, so we'll wait just a minute. Let's just shift this down out of the way. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, so let's pull number 2 out and see which triangle I have here. It is the one that I was picking. Okay, so when you look at that, what are we noticing we have? We have a T, and how many x's? 2, right? So we're going to say plus 2 x's equals 180. Well, Mrs. Swanson, we didn't do anything where we had 2 letters. How the heck are we supposed to figure that out? Okay, here's what I want you to understand. This is a corner of a rectangle. How many degrees does a corner of a rectangle equal? 90, right? So I'm going to now substitute in 90 where this T was. Plus 2x equals 180. Okay, so now we're going to work off of that equation. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this just so that it doesn't look so confusing. Okay. Oops. Okay, so now let's go through orders of operation. We have to work backwards. So we want to get rid of any adding or subtracting. Now, in all of our other previous ones, you guys were used to getting rid of this first. And here's the thing. We could move that, but it's going to be adding a step that we don't have to take. Okay, I'm going to shift my screen down really quick just so that I've got more space to work. Okay, and I'll get rid of this out of the way. Okay, so what I'm saying is we are going to work to get the x isolated, right? So if I want to work to get that x isolated, let's keep that 2x there. Okay, and let's get rid of this 90. Right now it's a positive 90. I know there's no symbol in front of it, and yes, it is adding, but as we start working with integers in these 2-step equations, you have to really think about how you're getting rid of that integer. So right now it's a positive 90. The opposite would be negative 90. So let's do minus 90. Okay? Because I prefer the X on the left-hand side. Now some people don't, it doesn't bother them. But if we shift it over, if we shift this 2X over to the right side, it's going to give us a negative, and we're going to have to do extra steps to get rid of that negative. So it's easier to keep it positive on the right side than to have to do extra steps. So if I just did minus 90 on the left side, now I'm going to come over to the right side. I have to do the same thing, minus 90. And yes, you could have flip-flopped these when you wrote the equation. It just so happens to be that's the way I wrote my equation. So I'm working off of what I originally had. Okay, so now I have 2x equals 180 minus 90 is 90. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and to get x by itself, we're going to divide by 2. So divide by 2. 90 divided by 2, x equals 45. Okay, so now I'm going to go into my thing, and wherever I have x, I'm going to put a 45. So here's an x, and here's an x. And we said that t was 90, right? So that was 90. Do we have any other x's or t's anywhere on any of our other triangles? No. Here's a t right here. So I'm going to substitute in a 90 right here. So now it's really 90 plus 5, which would give me 95 for that part. So I'm going to actually erase this and just make this a 95. Because I could put them together. Okay. Any other t's or x's? No, I'm done looking at it. Okay. So now I'm done substituting in where I can. So we're going to go ahead and have to move on to our next one. Okay. Key thing to remember is you're going to have to use pieces to work your way through this. You're going to have to look through, you're going to have to understand that corners of a rectangle equal 90 degrees. Okay. And you're going to have to use other angles to be able to figure it out. So let me shift this one down and out of the way. So let's pull the next one out. Let's try. This is my next angle measure. Okay, so I've got 2 P's and an M. How do you suppose we could go through and figure this one out? If I have 2 P's and an M, and I don't know what P is, and I don't know what M is. What do you suppose we're going to do on this one? Obviously, we know that the 2 P's have to be equal to each other. It's kind of hard to do that one. Trying to see if there's a better triangle that we could do instead of that one as our second one. Or sorry, our third one. You know what? I'm going to pause on this one. I'm going to shift this back in. Whoops. Because I'm seeing something that maybe will help us. And that's the whole point of a puzzle. It might help us to solve this yellow one next. Right here. Why do I say that? You know, I thought I'd kind of try and work my way through, but why might it be easier to solve that one? Because we already know 2 of the angle measures. Okay, so right now on that yellow, I've got 95 plus 60 is going to, plus W is going to equal my 180. Okay, so we'll chunk these together. So 95 plus 60 is going to give me 155 plus W equals 180. And if you would rather have that W in the front, you can do that. These can be flip-flopped. Okay, it's addition, it doesn't matter. 2 plus 3 is 5, so is 3 plus 2. They both equal 5. So if you don't like to see it set up this way, you could rearrange these. Now, when you have subtraction involved, you can't just flip-flop numbers, but you can with addition. If you're used to seeing it like this, then rewrite it. Okay, so right now it's plus 155. Get rid of it, so minus 155. So So minus 155. W equals, I'll just do this longhand quick, 5. I just found out W is 25 degrees. So here we're going to write in 25 degrees. Okay. Do we have any other W's? No more W's. Okay, so now we can probably go through and work off of at least maybe solving for M right here. Or we could solve for F. And there's so many different spots that you can go. But the key thing to remember is your corners of your rectangle are going to equal 90 together. So like, for example, if I look off of this one, M and N, these two right here have to equal 90. And I already know here's 60 of it. So M plus 60 has to equal my 90 for that. Okay, it's going to be very similar to go through and solve for F, because F plus 25 equals my 90. So here's what I want you to do. I'm going to go ahead and leave you there, and I want you to go through and see if you can figure out, because really once you figure out, for example, your M, you can shift in your answer that you get for M here, down here in the corner, right here. When you find out what M is, remember there's an M right here. Okay, then you should be able to do that one that I had pulled out. Then you should be able to work on this triangle right here. Okay, and once you figure out what P is off of this triangle, well, you should be able to substitute in, figure out what your F is from this equation, and then you should be able to figure out what Y and work your way through it in that manner. Okay, when you get finished, be sure and touch base with me to kind of check and see, did you get them correct? If you get stuck, come see me. I'll try and help you figure out where you could maybe find, there's enough information there, you just have to try and figure out where to pull it. Okay, the last thing out of this lesson is working with a circle. So this is page 8 out of your workbook, or page 11 out of your hardcover book. My first question to you is, how many degrees are there in a circle? Okay, a circle. If somebody were to do a complete spin on a skateboard, that's known as a 360. So 360 degrees is how many degrees are in a circle. Okay, we have to understand that. Now, we're not working with a triangle right now, we're working with a circle. And just understanding that a circle is 360 degrees. Number 2 says, what equation can we use to solve for x? So we're going to kind of do the same thing as we did with the triangle. Sorry, I have hiccups. We're going to take and combine all of this information here. And when we do that, it equals a circle, which is 360 degrees, right? Okay, so let's go through and look and see what we have in there. First thing I want to point out is, if you don't like working with fractions, you can change that 3/2 x into a decimal form. And if some of you will just know that off the top of your head, I'm hoping you do, but if not, 3 divided by 2 is how I would read that. If I do that on a calculator, it's the same as 1.5. Let me change colors back here. X, because my yellow won't show up on that yellow. So that red section is 1.5x. So when I go through and I put all my x's together, let's see, I've got 3 plus 2 more is 5, plus another 1 is 6, plus another 1.5 would give me 7.5x. So 7.5x. Okay, is that all of it? No, we still have this little square here. Okay, what's that little symbol mean? It means it's worth 90 degrees. So we have to add another 90 into that to finish out our circle. And when we finish it out, it equals the 360. So you guys are going to go through and work your way through to figure out what x is. Okay, so I want you guys to go through and finish out. I kind of got you started on activity 3. You're going to substitute in. You're going to go through, do your 2-step equation, and then you're going to have to substitute in what you get for X. When you find out what X is, you're going to substitute into each of these and solve for them. Okay, so you'll finish out page 8 for your homework. If you have any questions, be sure and ask.